Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Curious You podcast. I decided to record this episode on a video today because this episode is the last episode of season 2. I cannot believe that it's been 8 months of the Curious You podcast and that it's December already, because I remember the day when I started this podcast and I was counting down the weeks until December because I was trying to count how many episodes I would have by the end of the year. And I remember the number being around 34, 35. And I was thinking, oh my God, 34, 35 episodes. I cannot imagine that I will have so many recorded podcast episodes. And here we are. It's already December and it feels so natural and so normal and so very little when looking from this perspective. It doesn't seem like it's a lot. It seems like time went by in a minute. And in that very special minute, I've gained something that I probably haven't gained for the last 10 years of my life. That thing being self-confidence to speak my truth, self-confidence to show up, and self-confidence to actually believe in what I have to say and to believe that it matters, to believe that it will hit somebody, not literally, but that it will hit somebody emotionally on the other side and that you will be able to resonate with what I'm talking about here, and that maybe just a little I will be able to change your life for the better and make you do things that maybe you were afraid of doing before. This has been a life-changing experience, as all those experiences are that we postpone or that we say to ourselves, oh, now it's not the time to do this. And we list X amount of reasons why it's not the right time to do something. But in the end, it's actually the right time when we feel scared, when something feels out of reach, when something feels like we can't really do it now. And when we start giving ourselves all the reasons why we don't want to do something right now, I usually say that is the time to jump off that cliff, to jump off that edge, and to go for whatever it is that we want to go for. This year has been, I would say, one of the best years of my life, a year where I grew so fast, a year where I tested my limits, a year where I learned that there's so much hidden inside of me. There is so much that I am not even aware of. And there is this huge potential that I haven't even discovered. A year where I learned that this is only the beginning and that I will actually never, ever give up from myself. I will never give up from the fact that there is so much left to discover in this world. Looking back at all the years before this one, I would say I was more stuck in my head than I was going into action. And that is a lonely place to be. Because when you are stuck in your head, when you keep thinking, when you keep consuming, when you keep inserting information inside, but not extracting it and not creating, you feel stuck. You feel like the whole world is moving forward, but you're standing still because you're standing still with your thoughts. The secret is when you start creating, even if you don't know how to create, even if you've never done that before, the energy releases and you feel lighter. You feel like this is only the beginning. You feel like there is so much more you can be doing. And one thing leads to another, that in the end you realize all of those different things that you could actually be doing. My personal experience started with a children's book 1 year ago when I decided I was going to write a book. I decided on the topic, I found an illustrator, and I said, let's go for it. 1 year later, I'm doing so many different things, and the book was only the beginning. But if I hadn't made that first step towards any of these things, I wouldn't be here where I am today. And this doesn't matter if you're in corporate, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you're a business owner, whatever you're doing, it's about taking that little step that might feel scary in this specific moment. For today's episode, I wanted to take you with me in going through a reflection of 2025. I wanted to go through a couple of steps that we can do together to reassess how this year went and to prepare ourselves for the next year ahead. So, the first thing that I would call you to do or invite you to do together with me, because this is something I've been doing these days, is to write down all the things that made you happiest in this year. To actually go back and to think about moments where you felt really, really good. To think about moments that made you feel like anything was possible, no matter what those moments were. Either you were traveling or you were listening to music, you were taking photos, you were driving your car, you were writing a song, you were creating something that came from the heart. But that something gave you energy and it made you feel really good. You were in that zone of, everything is possible for me. I can do whatever I want to do in my life. I want you to write a list of all of those very special moments that you had and how they made you feel. What were you doing in those moments that made you feel the way you were feeling? This is a very important exercise because most of the time we go through life on autopilot and we actually don't stop to ask ourselves, why does this make me feel good? Could I be doing more of this? And how can I incorporate it into my life to make it a standard of living for myself? For example, for me, it was recording this podcast. I never knew how much I would love the process of recording a podcast. I always thought that I loved to write, which is why I wrote my book. But I never thought it would be this moment of actually talking, of recording a podcast, of being in my zone. Because the difference between writing and talking is that you can prepare for writing. You can take a moment, you can pause, you can continue tomorrow when you relax. But when you talk, when you actually start saying your truth, it's in this moment, here and now. And I cannot take a 10-minute break now and tell you, I'll be back in 10 minutes and we can continue. It's something that needs to happen in an aligned way for it to work. And it's the greatest skill that this year brought me, is practicing my own speech, practicing my own story, and practicing my own truth. Showing up here for you, recording every week, and actually creating a very special connection. I received so many messages this year from women all over the world who were listening to my podcast, who found me either through Spotify or Instagram, one way or another, and who told me that their lives changed because of something that I said in this podcast. I cannot explain to you what that means when you create something in this world and then people come back to you and tell you how you've changed their lives for the better. I am feeling very emotional just by saying all of these things and actually realizing what a year it has been and how many wonderful, wonderful souls I've met from all over the world. Because once you start creating a community, you can never go back. You can never go back to how it was. The only option you have in your life is to keep creating, keep doing something that you love doing. Because if you love doing something, if whatever that is brings you energy, whoever is listening to you, reading to what you're writing, or listening to what you're creating, that person will feel it. The energy will be there and it will resonate. It will hit the other side the way it is supposed to. So write down these things. It's very, very important that you know what makes you feel good. Considering this podcast makes me feel good, I've already announced it on Instagram stories, is that I will be taking it to a whole different level next year. The Curious You podcast will become a standalone business, and the Curious You podcast will have its own Instagram page, its website. It will have this whole system built behind it because after these 8 months, I've not only proven to myself that I can do this, I've proven that it works, that there's a market need for whatever we're talking about here. So try to reassess what makes you feel good and if you can actually do something with it. The second thing is quite the opposite, is to write down things that you don't like doing. In my personal case, it was always the organization behind doing what I'm doing. For example, Excel spreadsheets or organizing data. Or since we started selling books, I have to keep a check of all the books that I sell for tax purposes and for different reimbursements that I would need to do next year. And to me, all of that is very overwhelming because that's something that I've been avoiding since forever, probably, the organization of data, something that I kept telling myself I'm not good at, but in reality, it wasn't my priority. So, of course, when you have your own business, you cannot really say, oh, I'm not going to, keep track of all of the data, of all the tax reimbursements that I need to be doing. It's something that you actually need to be doing in order to have a successful business. So that is completely different in my case. I would say that I need to turn something that I don't like and to find a way to like it because this is something that I need to keep doing. So when it comes to things that I don't like, that I don't want to keep continuing, for example, is doing marketing. So creating carousels on Canva, doing all of those things myself. I set up a goal for next year is that I would find somebody, an assistant, who would help me create content. Because as much as I love creating, as much as I love recording this podcast, talking here to you, I don't like creating posts. The idea of entering Canva or any other design application, to me, it kills my curiosity, it kills my creativity. As much as I know that Instagram is very, very important, social media matters, I feel like I'm able to get through to people, get through to you in a much better way when I'm doing a masterclass or I'm doing a podcast because I show my face, I talk, and it's a completely different vibe. So instead of draining my energy by doing all of those things and telling myself, I need to be the one doing this, I decided to invest and to find an assistant, somebody who's going to help me show up regularly on social media and at the same time keep my creativity. So think about what it is during this year that you didn't like doing yourself. Maybe it's cleaning your house. The answer would be to find a cleaner. Maybe it is something about your job. Maybe you're working in corporate and you don't like the type of job that you're doing inside your company. I would urge you to think about all of those things and to find the courage and strength to take those things seriously in 2026 and not to take the things that you don't like, the things that drain your energy, together with you in 2026. Of course, I'm talking about things that can be changed, but I feel like most of the times the biggest difficulty we have is standing up for ourselves. So just a bit of courage, creativity, and more belief in yourself that you can actually turn things around for you during the next year. I would also invite you to list all the accomplishments that you had this year. So, to celebrate all the big things, whether it is, I don't know, finishing university, getting a promotion, getting a baby, getting married, whatever beautiful happened to you this year, I want you to take a moment and celebrate it, to actually allocate time by the end of this year, a day or a dinner where you gather with your partner, with your friends, with your family to discuss all the accomplishments you had for this year. I want you to really sit with it, to take a couple of hours to sit in gratefulness. Most of the times we go through life so quickly, so many things happen for us, and then we turn around and we're like, wow, we came this far, and then we move on with our lives. We don't really let those emotions sink into our bodies. You know, that feeling that you have when you're so grateful, you're so inspired, you're so full of life that your whole body is kind of, I don't know, like twinkly and feeling good and feeling like you're in love, like you have those butterflies inside of your stomach. I want you to reawaken that moment within you, within your body, just by thinking about all the things that you did. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be that you changed the world or you changed your position. It doesn't have to be that big. It can be something as simple as I was a mom this year. My child is healthy. My child is happy. I was a mom and I did a pretty good job of being a mom. Amazing. Like, amazing. That is what we're looking for. Just to acknowledge your existence, to acknowledge your existence and value that you bring to this world and to the people around you just by being you. I don't think that we do that often enough. Most of the times we're stuck in the mindset of, I need more. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm in a lack of, instead of, I did this. I'm good at this. I can do this. Because when we start calling in this abundance from moments of actually realizing how worthy we are, that is when magic starts happening. So call in abundance for the end of this year. Look back on this year and really think about yourself. Imagine the version of yourself who went through all of those things that you went through. You are the only one who knows what you went through. You have your own unique experience in this world. And I want you to claim it, to claim your own experience, to claim your own story, to pat yourself on the back, and to tell yourself, you're amazing. You did an amazing job of being a human being. Okay? I really want you to do that. The next thing we're going to do is close all the loops that are holding us back. So, what I mean by this is we are going to close all of those thoughts, all of the things that we haven't been able to close in the last couple of months. What I mean by this is we're going to answer to any messages that we haven't answered to in the longest time. We are going to reach out to that person we wanted to reach out to, but we never got around to doing that. We are going to donate to charity or do a good deed that we've wanted to do for a long time, but we never got around to doing that. So we are going to close all of those things that were inside of our heads, but we never went into action. When that happens, when we have a lot of wishes, but there's no action, that is the most dangerous place to be because that drains our energy. Forgive who you need to forgive. If you bought a program, but you haven't really been active, you haven't been using it, finish that program. Anything that you decided to do, but you haven't done until the end, you haven't done in this way where you're like, yes, I did it, do it. You still have a couple of days left to close all the loops, clean anything that needs to be cleaned out, whether it's your personal relationships, whether it's your house, whether it's anything else that has been sitting on your mind for long enough to make you tired. Do not enter 2026 with those kind of thoughts inside of your head. And the last part is to make peace with what didn't work out. I always say there's a reason why things don't work out. In my case, history and life has proved it time and time again that whenever something doesn't work out, it's for my own good. And I know you've heard this a gazillion times, probably the same way I have. But until we really learn to accept things the way they are, the ones that cannot be changed, the ones that happen outside of our control, it really is for the best. Life has a different plan for us. There's a reason. If something doesn't work out for you, think about ways that you can spin things around for yourself. Think about ways in which you could use all the time, perhaps, that you got, considering something didn't work out, the time that you got to work on yourself, to become a better version of yourself. Because if our life is intentional, if every day we wake up and our only intention is to be a human being who lives their full, highest potential, everything in life will unfold in accordance with that. Whatever happens will happen in accordance with our hypothesis. Because if I'm living my highest potential every day and things around me don't work out sometimes, my logical conclusion will be that it's happening for my best, for the highest version of myself. So, a little more belief in ourselves, a little more belief in this life that we're living, and a little more belief in the gigantic potential there is all around us. Think about what kind of person you want to be in 2026. Mind you, I'm not the one who's all up for this hype of new year, new me, because usually that energy really blows out quickly. Instead, what I'm asking you and inviting you to do is to implement that into your daily life, to really seek your highest potential every day of your life, not just in the beginning of 2026, but every day. Maybe if you make that one small goal to ask yourself every day, what would my higher self do? And to make decisions in accordance with that, that would already be a game changer for you. Before I end this podcast, I wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for listening to the episodes, for supporting me along on my journey, for being a wonderful, wonderful, curious soul who's here, who's learning, and who's trying to become a better person every day. I appreciate you more than you will ever know. Onwards and upwards for 2026. I wish you wonderful holidays, and I hope that you find time to just be, to just exist, and to just be yourself and bask yourself in gratefulness and love with the closest people around you. Sending you a big hug, big kiss, and I will see you. Wow, I will see you same time, same place, but next year. Bye.